creating course materials from print to digital materials. As you may know, Young Digital Planet is a digital company. It's been around in Poland for about 20 years, and although it's primarily been a digital planet company from the word go, we've been on a journey of understanding how we move from one medium to the other. I'm going to divide my presentation to you into 4 parts. Firstly, I'll be talking about some research that I did, I started about 3 years ago, into the future of ELT coursebooks and the impact that devices such as the iPad would have on the ELT course materials. I'll then update you with a few, I think, relevant trends from the English language teaching sector. I'll demonstrate to you the core curriculum for English and what it is and how it works. And finally, I'd like to share some of the technical and pedagogical challenges that we've struggled since we started work on this project earlier this year. So, when I started looking at this area in my research project in 2010, we had around 750 million speakers of English. They're roughly split between people who speak English as their first language in an English-speaking country and those who speak English where in a country such as, say, India, where English has official status, but most people don't speak English. Those speakers of English are in fact outnumbered by over 1 billion learners of English. And those billion learners are in turn taught English, some of them are taught English by around 11 million teachers. There's huge growth, as we know from being here, in emerging markets, and the international ELT market is quite difficult to measure, but Ambient Insights recently sized it at $58 billion. As you can see from the next point, well, 2 points really. Firstly, the publishing bit of that 58 billion is probably $2 or $3 billion, roughly. And then of that, coursebooks, certainly in 2010, accounted to 95% of ELT publisher revenues. And as with all kinds of coursebooks, there are a wide range of stakeholders. It's not just about the learners and the teachers, but all the decision makers, the ministries of education are also involved. And those things don't change in the move from print to digital. As part of my research, I asked teachers what they thought about ELT coursebooks and this transition to digital. And as you can see from the slide, they had some quite helpful points about the usefulness of the current ELT coursebook. There are others who are more critical. And that their perception was at that point we should build on what we've learned and what we do with the print books into digital. There are other views on that too. In my research, I interviewed a number of experts, including publishers, about, and I also drew upon my own experience of the use of technology in language learning and teaching over the past 40 years, really. I was hoping to show you a video clip, but I'm not going to. Actually, might be worth working. Sorry. I can't operate this computer, excuse me. No, it didn't work. I was hoping to show you this video, which, if you have ever time, I suggest you Google a guy called B.F. Skinner. I'm being outperformed here on the noise. Who created something called language machines in the early 1950s. And the point I was hoping to make was that all these technologies have huge, audio, video, multimedia, the internet, even second life, have huge potential for language learning. Yet publishers, certainly the ELT publishers, have maybe, I wouldn't say staggeringly bad, as one of my interviews said, but not as good as you'd like. that the new generation of courseware would be digital, and it would differ from the print in the following kinds of ways. It would be more granular, chunked. It would need to still have perhaps a clearer sense of learner progression, because that's still a problem in print, but it's very easy to get lost in the digital world. I felt we should try and exploit authentic content, not just a closed world of published products. I certainly felt it needed to work on mobile, and I wanted to see more interactivity and more engaging materials than the kind of death by multiple choice questions. And on the left-hand side of this slide, you'll see quite an interesting quote from Professor Stephen Heppel, who's one of the sort of leading thinkers and innovators in the use of digital technology in education. And you can see this in the next slide, where young people, and in fact people of all ages, have access to all these screens, all these technologies at home. And I'm sure, in fact, looking at a couple of you, weapons of mass distraction, we're very tempted to multitask because we can. For young people in education, that's an opportunity, but it's also a challenge. And I think what we need to do in the schools is we need to replicate, at least match, the quality of technology access that we have at home in the classroom. But for that to work, there are a whole load of things that we need. We need IT systems that are useful in the school, and the most important bit of hardware and software we need are teachers who have teacher-friendly materials and who have the skills and the motivation to use what we give them. The next trend that I'd like to discuss is that the role of English has changed in schools since when I started teaching in the 1980s. All the students I taught had started English at age 11. Nowadays, nearly over half of children start English at 5 or even younger. And that has great implications for courseware design, all the way to, and curriculum design. In parallel with that, so that child on the right is actually a preschooler, and she's looking at a very, very long language learning journey. And for that, she's going to be assessed, she's going to be attested, and the people assessing and testing her progress as she goes down that English language learning journey need to have things that are relevant, that will motivate her and not demotivate her. Many young children on that learning journey will be doing it, studying English not just as a separate curriculum subject, but they'll be learning other skills in English, maybe in an English medium school, bilingual school, or maybe they will be increasingly learning English through science or maths. But however they're learning, we have an underlying problem of not enough teachers, and this is a challenge and opportunity maybe for us. The British Council has reported that there are around now, as I said, 10 or 11 million teachers, around 15 million really are needed now, and in the fairly medium future, we'll need closer to 20 million. So we have a real problem there. And many of the teachers we have are retiring soon and are not being replaced. I'd like to talk to you a bit now about the core curriculum for English, which you can also see demonstrated on the YDP stand. As you can see from this slide, it's a big project that we've been working on from this year. And what we've done is we've carefully tailored it to support the curricula that are used around the world in primary and secondary level. So at primary you'll see much smaller units, and they're designed to allow for 1 or 2 sessions of English a week, which are quite often delivered by the primary school teacher themselves, who may or may not be very good at English or know much about English methodology. At secondary, we provide much more, much longer units, and they take people right up to grade 12. So it's a big, big project. And we completed most of primary English, which we're able to demonstrate, and secondary is coming soon. On this slide, before the demo, I'd like to show you the sort of workflow. This varies, but this is a typical sort of learner experience. So on the top, you have a sort of overview. We've built in sort of communicative language methodology, fairly conventional, but tried and tested communicative language teaching routines of sort of presentation, some practice screens and English productions. So the first screen on here shows this sort of introductory cartoon. We then have what we consider what are quite rich interactive routines that allow the children to practice the specific grammar, vocabulary and so on of the presentation in different ways. And we try and make those very multi-sensory. And then at the end, they're encouraged to practice with each other, orally, with other human beings or at home with their families, the language that they've just practiced. But there's also games in that section. A critically important part of the project is teacher support. So teachers will have guides and print-outable resources that they can use. Great demo. So if you'd like to take my word for it, core curriculum for English does all these things. It provides very comprehensive curriculum support, and what we've done is we've mapped curricula from around the world with the assistance of our advisor Simon Greenall, who has extensive experience of writing course books in China, in the Middle East and elsewhere. So everything that's there follows the grammatical points, the vocabulary, the topics that are required in state curricula. It's adaptable, and although we play today, it is plug and play. What's very important to us is it supports the right kind of language learning methodologies, particularly communicative ones, and it also, particularly on touchscreen devices, supports multi-sensory learning. In particular, I'd hope to show you the songs and chants and the sort of total physical response type routines that we built into the materials. On a less fun note, it supports assessments and tests, and we do that by providing materials that the teachers compile into tests that they create themselves, or they can take ready-made stuff. So that allows for sort of formative assessment and progress testing, as well as at the end, formal testing. We offer fairly small chunks of learning, and that gives you more flexibility, and we feel sort of fits into the way that people want to learn now. And our materials will work on mobile devices. They don't need special apps. They work with an internet connection, or they can be supplied to work offline, and they'll also work on PCs. Again, they can work on PCs offline. We've built in a wide range of engaging activity types. There are lots of games, lots of songs, and there are lots of different ways of engaging, manipulating content. And as I said, it's comprehensive, it's coherent, but as I said, the flexibility is really important, so teachers don't have to use the materials in the order that they want. They can use them as a supplementary resource, or they can use everything but in a different order. And the reason we've done that is because we want to support ubiquitous learning scenarios. I was at a presentation recently when the speaker said that he felt we'd moved from M-learning, mobile learning, to U-learning, ubiquitous learning. And I think what we've tried to do is make our product work so that teachers can use our products in different ways in class. The students can use the products as well in different ways, particularly at home. And then we'd like to support more parental support and engagement, and encourage children as well to practice the learning, not just in front of the screen, but to practice orally the language that they're learning with their families. To make this all work, we feel that getting the blend right is critical, and we're spending a lot of time working to support teachers. One of the most important ways we're involving teachers is consulting them at each step of development about the product that we're developing to make sure that it will work for them and it will work for the children they're teaching. But we are asking them, do you want, and I think they do want, step-by-step guides. They will continue to want, for a while, principal resources, so that you can have, we will also support relatively low-tech scenarios where maybe the teacher shows our material on the screen and then the children work on old-fashioned worksheets. Homework management is supported so that teachers can set and track assignments, and then, as I said before, we have set assessments and testing built in. This project has not been easy. The first two problems, making mobile-friendly resources and engaging learning routines, are based on a very strange technical issue, if you like. Mobile learning devices make learning ubiquitous, but unless you make an app which is platform-specific, it's quite difficult to make really interactive materials that will work on a website in HTML5. So that's been quite a struggle for us, and we've really benefited from the huge in-house technical expertise that YDP has. The next two problems are not new to technology. They're perennial problems for all ELT publishers who are faced with the same learning journeys that that little girl is facing. What kind of angles can we offer her that are new and engaging on the same kinds of topics and the same linguistic content, the grammar, the vocabulary that she needs to cover? And we work very hard to make that learning journey engaging for that young girl. Another challenge for all of education, is that progression from primary to secondary, which is particularly acute in English language teaching or all language learning, where often what the children have spent their time learning in primary is kind of not recognised at secondary, and it's almost like they start again. And we hope our product will help that progression work better. We've also had to rethink our product development processes. This is an ambitious project, and we've tried to match, we think we have matched, the rigour that you see in traditional publishing with the speed of digital. So our product will, from start to finish, take about 18 months to complete, whereas in traditional print publishing that would probably take 5 years. But even if we're doing things fast, you have to test everything, and by use of testing, I don't mean just technical testing, I also mean testing prototypes and beta versions with users to make sure not just that they do the techie bit right, but they're what they want to use. And as I said, one of the benefits of our approach is that we're fast, but that is incredibly stressful for us as individuals, as a team. But we're getting there. I'd like to thank you very much for your attention. Here's the screen from one of the routines that I'd hope to show you. I've got about 2 minutes left to answer any questions, or if anyone would like to make a point, microphone here. Otherwise, if you'd like to know more, I suggest you come along to the stand and we'll be delighted to show you the materials. Thank you.